So, good morning, all. Yesterday we have discussed how we can create the database connectivity, or how we can implement the database connectivity. We can execute query and all those things we have discussed yesterday. Yesterday we have also discussed that how we can create the table. So today what we will be doing? Today we will try to implement object-oriented programming with the database. Okay, and then uh, we will store data, whatever we have retrieved from the or whatever we have received from the user. So we will take user input in command line, and then we will store it into the database. So let's start our today's implementation. Here in this example, we will be taking very simple and very easy to understand class example. Okay, so uh, by understanding this example, you will be able to implement the concept of OOP and database connectivity together in you will be able to implement together in your programming practices. So let's start. Let's create two simple class P1. Okay, let's create an you can say object of uh, database connectivity class. Okay, so how we can do it means whenever you are working with database connectivity, there are two type of approach. Uh, you can say first one is connected architecture, and second is disconnected architecture. Okay, connected architecture and disconnected architecture. Now, what is a connected architecture? Can anyone tell me? Now, in case of connected architecture, connection to the database will be alive throughout the session. Okay, so while you are running the program, there will be continuous connection in between front end and back end. Front end means the code where you, the place where you have written your Python code. Okay, and back end means here we are not considering web architecture, so do not consider front end by HTML or those things. Okay, so here front end means our program and back end means database. So in connected architecture, it will be open for forever. Okay, so means while application will start, the connection will start and it will continue till the application is over. Okay, and in disconnected architecture, what will happen in case of disconnected architecture? Whenever it will require to access the database, at the time only connection will be activated. Otherwise, it will be closed. Now here, let's discuss. Let's discuss whatever we have started yesterday. So in continuation to that, we will be discussing some or few more queries. Okay, so let me first log in into our SQL server. Okay, here yesterday we have created one data set AIBDA. Okay, and in that AIBDA table, in that AIBDA we have created one table. Okay, so currently there is not any data. So today what we will be discussing? Today we will be discussing uh, a query. Okay, so how we can execute the insert query. So the code for that, import mysql.connector and object one is equals to mysql.connector.connect. Okay, and then we will specify host means connection string, user root, password, whatever password you have set while you have installed the mysql, and then a database, name of the database in which we are going to work. Okay, and then we will create an cursor of this object of this connection. Okay, so all the operation we will perform using cursor. Okay, now uh, what is the query for listing all table? Yes, if I want to see all the implement or all the available table in the database, then how can I see it? For I in V1 print type. Okay, so currently there is only one table, that is tab 1, which we have created yesterday. Now let's insert data into this table. Okay, so we are having two columns. One column is integer and second column is varchar. So let's create one table with the primary key. Okay, so let's say v1 dot. Most of time we will be writing query in string variable, and then we will pass that variable for execution. So st1 is equals to create table, let's say table 2, here column 1 primary key int, column 2 varchar 20. Okay, v1 dot execute, v1 dot execute, just a minute. So v1 dot execute st1. Is there any mistake in query? Yes, this is our query. Yes, it is showing some error into the primary key. How we can define primary key? Yes, yes. Anybody? Can anyone tell me? I think this is one syntax. Okay, we have created new table, table 2, where column 1 means integer value work as a primary key. So if we go to our database, okay, and if we refresh it, then you can see here we are getting the another table, table 2. So if we click on table 2, then it will show us column 1 and column 2. If we go at the structure, okay, then here you can see we will be getting the key icon. Okay, key icon means it is the primary key. So that means we have created a table using primary key, and now we will be inserting a record into this table. Okay, but we have to make sure that column 1 value must not be repeating. Okay, it must be unique. So here, so here v1 dot execute. Here we will add. Okay, so what is the query for inserting a row into table? st2 is equals to insert into table 2. Okay, value let's say 4, and where let's say we will keep any name. Let's say hello. Okay, v1 dot execute st2. Yes, insert into table 2. You have to give me answer. You people are learning DBMS. So what is the query for this? Yes, what is the query for inserting the row here? Insert into tab 2. First value is 4. insert into table name, and then values. Okay, good. It is executed. Let's see whether it is reflected in our table or not. So here you can see column 1, column 2. Column 1 value is 4 and column 2 is hello. Column 1 value is 4 and column 2 value is hello. Now, let's make this thing to be useful using object-oriented programming. Now, whenever we don't require it, okay, at that time we can use the v1.close. Okay, so once we are done with the query, okay, query execution, so we are done with the database operation. So we will call. So let's see, execute select query sp3 is equals to select star from tab 2. v1 dot execute st3 for I in v1 print I for in hello. Okay, if we write print I of 0, then we will get nothing. Of 1, then also we will get nothing. Yes. So immediately after executing this, we have to store result somewhere. Okay, so let's say T1. T1 is equals to V1 and for I in T1. So for I in T1, print I. Okay, so it is not allowing us to store data into any variable. So what we have to do immediately after retrieving data from the database, we have to use it. Okay. So how it is working? We are getting the unread error. That means there is some data in the variable or in the cursor which is not yet read. And once we will read it, then it will be automatically discarded. Clear? Okay. Now I want to implement a database class that will be helpful to me in performing this kind of operation. Okay, so let's see whether it is allowing us to access via variable or not. Okay, so it is not allowing us to access or it is not allowing us to store it into the key1 or any variable. Okay, if we are simply writing v1, then it is working. And here you can see it is giving the internal error, unread result. Okay, because we have not yet read from the variable. Then it will work. Now let's try to print the type of print type of T1, none type. Okay, so next question will be that how we can use it. So for that we have to create one list and we have to append all the result into list and then we can use it. So to implement that we will create one list L1 is equals to list. Okay, and L1 dot append I. Okay, now if we will print L1, and here you can see we are having the result. So now if we don't want to interact with the database, then we can directly access result from L1. But whatever query we have executed, that we can retrieve from the L1. Now I want to implement a class for this. Okay, so how we can implement the class? Let's create a class dbconnect. Okay, def underscore underscore init underscore underscore self. Here we will pass 4 arguments: host, user, password, and database. Okay, so host, user, password, and database. Now, while we are working with this class, okay, we are supposed to use this code. Let me put it over here. We are creating a database connectivity class, okay, which will be useful to you while you are working with the database connectivity. So here we will write self dot underscore o1. Here we will write self dot underscore underscore v1 and self dot underscore underscore o1 dot cursor. Now host is equals to, if you don't get confused, so we will add one integer. Here we will pass host1, user, password. Let's make it small, pass1. And here let's make it db. Now we are done with this. We are done with the initialization. We have created the cursor. Now we will define two type of function. We will define two type of function. Okay, first function will be fetch. Self comma, let's say query. So what we will do? In that case, self dot underscore underscore v1 dot execute query. Okay, whatever selection query we have passed, that we will write over here, that we will execute over here. And then we will create a list. L1 is equals to list. for I in self dot underscore underscore v1. Okay, L1 dot append I, and then we will return L1. Next is DML. So I'm facing some issue. Please wait for a second. Yeah. Sorry for interruption. So we will be writing two functions. One will be fetch and another will be DML. DML means data manipulation. So in fetch, we will pass the select query, and here we will pass the uh, let's say create, insert, update, delete, CRUD. CUD, create, update, CIUD, create, then insert, update and delete. Here also we will be doing same thing, self dot underscore underscore v1 dot execute. Right. Okay, so now this is our class, DB Connect class. Then we will be implementing another class C1. Okay, def underscore underscore init underscore underscore reference of self v1 and v2. So we are working on how we can insert data into the database. So def underscore underscore init self v1 and v2, self dot underscore underscore v1 is equals to v1, and self dot underscore underscore v2 is equals to v2. Okay, now here, let's say we want to read all the class object data from the database. Okay, so let's say df1 uh, get data, we will pass the ID, self comma ID. We will form a select query. Select query is equals to select star from table 2 where what is the name of the first column, whatever we have created, column 1. Okay, so where column 1 equals to str of I1. Means whatever integer, whatever ID we have passed, it will be converted into the string, and then it will be merged with the string. Now here we will create the object of class DB Connect. Okay, so let's say O1 is equals to DB Connect. Here we will pass the 4 arguments: host, user1, pass1, and DB1. Okay, so here what we will pass. What was the argument? Localhost. Okay, so first argument will be the localhost. Next will be the user. Next will be the password. And next will be the database name, AIBDA. So whatever argument we will pass, it will be sent here. Okay. And after creating the object O1 of DB Connect, what we will do? We will call the fetch method. Okay, so O1 dot fetch. Here we will pass the query. O1 dot fetch select query. And here you see that we are returning a list. So we have to use one variable v3 or v1 is equals to o1 dot fetch and print v1. So whenever we want to get any data for any object, okay, here actually we are using the other data. Okay, here if we are using v1 as a ID and column 1 and v2 as a column 2, okay, then here we can write like, let's say self dot underscore underscore v1. Okay, and here let's make it v2 so we don't get confused. Oh no, v2 we already used, so let's say output 1. Okay. Okay, so there is not any syntactical error in this. Now let's see that how we can work. Let's say O1 is equals to C1. Okay, we will specify 4 comma let's say ABC. Now let's say O1. Okay, this will not work. Why? Because we are passing one argument. So O1 dot get data. Okay, we have made mistake in select query. Where is the select? Okay, SELECT select star from. Okay, here this will show us, means this get data function will show us the data which is fetched from the database. Still, we forgot to close the connection. So here we can okay, once get data is connected, means it is over. There is no need of any cursor. So every time we are creating object of it. So what we can do here, we can write, let's say self dot underscore underscore v1 dot close. Okay, and here similarly, after executing the query, we will write self dot underscore underscore v1. Means once our operation is done, we will close the connection. Okay, once our operation is done, we will close the connection. Clear? Now, let's see, let's execute this once again. Yes, we are not getting error. That means this is completely disconnected architecture. What do you mean? What do you mean by disconnected architecture? Once you will execute the query, connection with the database will be automatically freed, or it will be closed. Okay, so this will help us in saving the bandwidth in network. So it will allow us to use that bandwidth for handling other client requests or other client. Similarly, let's execute one data. Let's say def. Let's say store data. Here, what we will write in store data, in store data, we will be writing the insert query. So insert query is equals to insert into tab 2 values here. First value will be self dot underscore underscore v1 comma. Second value will be self dot underscore underscore v2. So let's create the object of class dbconnect. Okay, o1 dot dml. We will pass query. Okay, so that query will be IQ, insert query. Now, This will not allow us to insert this data. Why? Because 4 is primary key, and that here you can see 4 is already there in column 1, so it will give us error. So what we will do, we will create another object. O2 is equals to object of class C1. Let's say 10 comma Saturday. O2 dot store data. Okay. Okay. Where we have made mistake? Yes, we forgot to convert it into the string. So whatever you are using string, then you have to do the typecasting. Okay, so it is executed properly, store data. Now let's verify this into the database. So 10 and Saturday. Now, if you people are having any doubt in whatever we have discussed today, then you can ask me. This is known as object-oriented approach. Okay, here you can see we will create, if you are creating this file, okay, if you are creating this file as a module, and if you are using it everywhere, okay, then believe me that this file you can use with web application, desktop application, or any application. Okay, this file will help you to manage the database operations. But only thing that you have to make sure that you should implement some mechanism over here, that whether the query is executed properly or not. So you should return some status. So in exception, you have to implement the exception handling. You can implement exception handling over here. Okay, so here you can write like if you want to implement exception handling, then let's say try self.execute query. And then you can return true, else return false. Okay, so here in store data, you can write like o1.dml if o1.dml dot input query is true, then you can print that data inserted successfully. Else print there is some problem in data insertion. Okay, and here before returning false, what you should write? You should close the connection. Well, it's in text line number 20. Here, sorry. Right, accept. Try and accept. Now, up to this, there won't be any problem, but here it will show us there. There is some problem in data insertion. Why? Because 10 is a primary key. There is a record in database with primary key 10. Okay, so it will return the false. Okay, so if false is written, in that case it will go to the else part. There is some problem in data insertion. So this is how you can implement the object-oriented programming concept with the database uh, application. Okay, so here we have implemented disconnected architecture, means it will connect with the database only and only when it is required. Otherwise, it will not connect with the database, and as soon as the operation is over, it will immediately close the connection. So, all of you clear with this? Anybody is having any doubt in this? You want any other example in next lecture? Okay, more example of database connectivity with object-oriented programming, right? So let's quickly see what we have discussed today. Whatever we have discussed previously, it was a procedural approach. We have gone through step-by-step approach. Here, what we have done, we have tried to convert it into the class. Constructor, fetch, and DML. Three methods we will implement. In constructor, we will pass the name of the host, the name of the user, then password, and the database in which we want to with which we want to interact. Okay, and then we will create the object of cursor. After that, in fetch query, we will execute the query. Whatever result will be there, that we will append to a list. Selection result is there, that we will append to a list. And then after fetching it, we will close it. We will close the connection, and then we will return the list. In DML, same thing. Okay, but here we will use try and accept if query is executed properly, then we will close the connection and then we will return true. And if there is any exception, then immediately we will close the connection with the database and then we will return false. So while we are executing that function DML, okay, we will use if and else. So if it is successfully executed, if it is returning true, then data inserted successfully, and if it is not returning true, then we can say there is some problem in the data insertion. So for first time it has allowed, but in second time, here we know that first column in the table is primary key and there is one entry with a 10, so we won't be in position to implement it. We won't be in position to insert a new row into the table, so it will give us the error. So for that reason, there is some problem into the data insertion. So we will be discussing one more example of this in next lecture.